The divine feminine is far more than an abstract symbol or an energetic principle reflected in the aspects of our soul. It is the origin itself, the creative force that brings forth the visible from the invisible, the principle that translates spirit into form. For millennia, this principle has been suppressed, distorted, and silenced within religious and societal structures. Yet it cannot be erased, for it is part of the eternal order, part of what we carry within us. Today it returns, and it reveals itself most clearly in the process of twin flames. The history of humanity is a history of division. Where once there was wholeness, separation was introduced. The divine feminine was banished from religious systems, erased from myths, cast into the shadows. Sophia, the divine wisdom of Gnosis, was declared a fallen figure. Mary Magdalene, the companion of Christ, was degraded to a sinner. Goddesses became demons, and the power of intuition, devotion, and cyclical order was systematically devalued. Yet the divine feminine is a universal principle, it appears in all great cultures and traditions. In Egypt, it was embodied in Isis, the goddess of magic, healing, and motherhood, symbolizing the creative and sustaining power. In Mesopotamia, Inanna or Ishtar, goddess of love and war, embodied creative power and transformative destruction. The Greeks knew Gaia, the primordial mother and personified earth, and Demeter, goddess of fertility, keeper of the cycles of life and death. In Jewish tradition, it appears as Shekinah, the feminine presence of God in Kabbalah, expressing the immanent divine dwelling in the world. In Christianity, it continues in the symbolism of the Black Madonna, a mysterious, earthbound figure reflecting ancient goddess powers. Most clearly, it appears as Sophia, the wisdom of God, in Gnostic teachings. Barbelo, a Gnostic primal force, also symbolizes the source of all light and creation. In later traditions, it appears in figures like Lilith, often demonized but originally a symbol of female sovereignty and independence. In Eastern traditions, the divine feminine is revered as Shakti, the dynamic energy that moves all and without which the masculine remains powerless. Shakti manifests in many forms, as Kali, the destructive creative mother, as Durga, the warrior and protector, as Parvati, the symbol of love and devotion. In Buddhism, it appears as Tara, the bodhisattva of compassion and liberating wisdom. A world built on only one principle loses its balance. That is what we have witnessed for centuries, systems based on power and calculation but suppressing the heart and wisdom of life itself. The divine feminine is not sentimental or weak, it is the force that sustains life in cycles, grants intuition, sees deeper than any logic. It is the living matrix of being, and without it consciousness becomes impoverished. Mysticism has never forgotten this truth. In ancient teachings we find traces of it, in the figures of Isis, Inanna, Gaia, Demeter, Shekinah, Mary Magdalene, Sophia, Barbelo, Lilith, Shakti, Kali, Durga, Parvati, and Tara. Each carries a part of the divine feminine, and together they tell a story returning to our time, the story of a power forgotten but never lost. Today, in the age of awakening, this truth returns. We begin to remember that the feminine is not only a complement to the masculine but an equal pillar of creation. We recognize that true wholeness can only arise when both principles work in harmony, within ourselves, in the world, and in our sacred relationships. And here the twin flames come into play. The journey of twin flames is not just a romantic story or an intense love drama, it is the expression of a much greater movement, the return of the divine feminine. For in the meeting of soul halves, it becomes clear that the feminine in its depth was never lost. It rests within, reminding us of our wholeness, compelling us to let go of old structures and enter a new order. The flames of twin souls are not merely burning feelings, they are the fire of realization. A fire that once seemed to consume all knowledge when libraries burned, when wise women were persecuted, when the symbols of the feminine were erased. Yet these flames now bring light, reveal forgotten wisdom, ignite the heart. In meeting the twin flame, we sense this divine principle alive within us, calling us back to remember what we have always been. The feminine is the mirror in which the masculine recognizes itself. It is the depth into which the spirit plunges to give birth to life. Without the feminine, the masculine remains empty, directionless, trapped in its own constructions. Only when both come together, wisdom and power, intuition and clarity, surrender and leadership, does wholeness arise. On the soul level, this means, twin flames are no coincidence. They are an alchemical process, a sacred work embodying the return of the Divine Mother, Sophia, and all these archetypal forces into our awareness. Through the pain of separation, shadow work, and the awakening of the heart's power, the feminine is reborn within us. And by embracing it, we also give it space again collectively. We stand at a point where the world urgently needs the divine feminine. In a time shaped by control, technology, and the pursuit of power, the longing for inner truth, connection, and a wisdom deeper than numbers and laws grows. The feminine is this wisdom. It is the force that teaches us to receive rather than conquer, to trust rather than control, to feel rather than think. And therein lies the transformation twin flames trigger, the return to the heart. In truth, the divine feminine is not a distant ideal. It lives in every soul, regardless of outer gender. Each of us carries both the feminine and the masculine within. But history has brought us out of balance, and now, in this phase of awakening, it is up to us to restore it. When we take the voice of intuition seriously, when we have the courage to surrender to the unknown, when we honor life's cycles, we honor the feminine within ourselves. The twin flame journey makes this process unmistakably clear. It brings us into the mirror, confronts us with our wounds, forces us to heal the parts of ourselves that have lain in shadow. And often, it is precisely the feminine qualities, receptivity, surrender, trust, that need to be rediscovered and integrated. Thus the journey becomes an initiation, a return to wholeness, a rebirth of the divine feminine that can no longer remain hidden. In the end, the true meaning of the divine feminine is nothing less than the return of life itself to its fullness. It is the healing of division, the union of heaven and earth, spirit and body, masculine and feminine. It is the remembrance that creation is never one-sided but born in the dance of opposites. When we honor the feminine again, we also honor the earth that sustains us. We honor the wisdom that guides us. We honor the love that flows through us. And we open the space in which twin flames can fulfill their true task, not only to find each other but to bring the divine principle of unity into this world. The flames that once consumed knowledge are now the flames that bring it back. They shine in our hearts, remind us of what was hidden, lead us home. And in this return, the feminine will no longer stand in the shadows, it rises to lead humanity into a new age.